What's up? I'm John Middlekauff, the host of the 3 and Out podcast, and you can find it below in the description. Also, you're watching this on the Volumes YouTube channel. I need you to subscribe right now. Share it with your friends. I just went to ESPN.com, typed up the schedule, and I wrote them down in their order. Basically 10 a.m. games, 1 o'clock games. I never, for those of you, I always thought it was weird when I lived in Philly that the 10 a.m. game actually was the 1 o'clock game, and then the 1 o'clock game was actually the 4 o'clock game. I remember showing up to Monday Night Football, kickoffs at 8:15. I have a lot of respect for East Coast fans. I mean, holy shit, you guys have to stay up late to watch football. Saints Atlanta. To me, this is pretty simple. You guys know where I stand on the Saints. I do not believe Dennis Allen is going to be a good coach because I've already seen it. Now, he's a good two. He's a good defensive coordinator, but being the head man is a different role. We have a lot of coaches in the history of the league that represent that argument. We know this is not, it's very, very difficult to make that transition. But I think Atlanta sucks. So if you're Dennis Allen, you got to win this game. I don't care if this game's on the road. You cannot open up your Saints career with a loss to the Atlanta Falcons and Marcus Mariota. You have the better team, but how good is Jameis? I know he's talking about his elbows and his knees and symmetrical. Is this guy good? Because I saw him years ago with Bruce Allen throw 30-plus interceptions. Now everyone's like, Middlekauff, he was 5-2 and statistically pretty good. Yeah, Sean Payton's gone. Sean Payton's on television now. The reason the Saints were so good were two humans. Drew Brees, Sean Payton. They're both gone. So this notion that I'm just betting the farm, Jameis Winston has had success with really one guy, Jimbo Fisher, in college. For a split second, I guess you could say Sean Payton, but who knows? I mean, it's less than half the season. So I don't know. I mean, I believe the Saints should win this game. I'm not saying they're going to lose because I think Atlanta stinks. The other thing is, if Atlanta does stink, Arthur Smith's just good. They're just allowed to suck for a while. That's going to be interesting to see. The Niners against Chicago. Obviously, the number one story here is Trey Lance. How does the guy look? I mean, does the guy look like he's going to be a starting quarterback? I've seen him a lot of practice, but shit. I mean, what does that mean? I've seen good days of practice, seen bad days of practice. Listen, I come from the school of we pay you to the games. How do you look in the games? There's been a lot of guys that practice well and suck in the games. There have been a lot of guys that practice shitty and dominate. You get paid for Sunday. I know Ray Lewis said you pay me Monday through Saturday, but ultimately, you get paid to perform in the games. So you get drafted number 3, a lot of hype. You got Jimmy breathing down your neck, even though the 49ers said, it's not true. Well, he's there. So it's going to be rainy. You guys also know where I stand on the Bears. I think they're bad. I think they're really bad. I think this offensive line is atrocious. Now, if it rains, maybe they just run the ball. They do have a couple good running backs, but I like the Niners big in this game. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. I added up last season what the Steelers-Bengals scores were, and combined they lost by 45 points. 45 points. Now, one game was 31, but they lost the other by 14 points. The Bengals kicked the living you-know-what out of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And everyone will tell you in the gambling world, Tomlin thrives as an underdog. This is a double whammy. He's an underdog. Why? Because, one, the Bengals are at home, and they're the defending AFC champs. And the other is they literally destroyed the Steelers. So I don't like Mitch Trubisky. I don't think he's a very good quarterback. I do not like Kenny Pickett either. Now, Kenny Pickett is the backup quarterback, so it might not even matter. And I was wrong. I thought Kenny Pickett would end up starting week 1. Now, maybe they didn't want to start him because they're playing a good team. I don't know. But, are the Bengals just going to be a power? Like I said earlier, are they just going to be a team like the Chiefs? You just chalk up because they got Joe Burrow into the playoffs every year? Is that the way it's going to go? Is Joe Burrow just going to be one of the best players, one of the most famous people in all of sports? Are they just going to win 11, 12 games again? Boom, be competing, AFC Championship, potential Super Bowl, and he's just a flat-out bona fide superstar, him and Jamar Chase? That's kind of what I would bet on. The Steelers' defense is good. They always are. I wonder about them offensively. That would make me nervous. I do like the Bengals in this game. Philly at Detroit. To me, and you can lump me in this as well. Everyone's picking the Eagles, right? I'm not talking about this game, but just this season. Because we believe their roster's really good. It is. But what does Jalen Hurts look like? Now, I know people in the organization heard he's gotten better. We've all heard and just read the articles. If you're an Eagles fan, you got to be excited. But like I said with Trey Lance, it's about the game. So if Jalen Hurts is going to be a guy that this team can compete to, win the NFC, let alone win the NFC East. Like, Jalen Hurts got to be a legit dude. I don't think the Lions' defense is very good. So does he just go into Detroit and kick their ass? And what about Detroit? Like, some of us watch Hard Knocks, rooting for these guys. Feels like they got a solid little team. But they just drafted number 2 overall. Like, are they going to be competitive this year? Are they like a 7-8 win team? Or are they just really shitty again? Like the Lions typically are without a couple Matt Stafford years over the last 20 years. I don't know. I mean, I'm rooting for them. I'm picking them to be competitive. But I wouldn't, like I said with the Panthers NFC South pick, I wouldn't bet my life on it by any means. But I do like Detroit in this game with the points. Though, if Jalen Hurts is literally taking another step, and by the end of the year, he's in that kind of like the worst version of the Derek, Dak, Cousins, like you can just kind of put him in there like he's throwing 30-plus touchdowns, the Eagles could be a problem. This game is fascinating. New England at Miami. The Patricia experiment, just look at New England's roster. It's their worst roster in recent memory. They do not have offensive, explosive players. How are they going to score points? But on the flip side, as Mike McDaniel said this week, he's like, it has to be the greatest discrepancy in the history of the NFL coaching-wise. I have 0 wins, and he has a ton of wins. Like, there's never been a bigger gap. So is Mike McDaniel going to outcoach Bill Belichick? Is Tua decent, or is Tua just bad? To me, that's my question. I don't know the answer. I'm betting against Tua. Not a huge fan. I have no feel for this game. I guess I would take the Pats just simply on the points, but I don't think the Pats are going to be very good. But I'm also not a huge believer in Miami. You know, their head coach has never called plays. He is very smart. He's likable. I'm rooting for him. He was the run game coordinator for Kyle Shanahan. Now, he played a big role, and he was a quote-unquote like a right-hand man, but he wasn't the play caller. To me, that's a big transition. That's just an unknown. And this is – whoever wins this game is going to feel pretty good. Like, we can compete to be a wild card team. I think this is a bigger game for Miami, given Belichick took the team down there Tuesday. Like, this is a big game for Miami. Like, if I'm going to take Miami seriously, like, you got to beat this Patriot team. Baltimore at the Jets. I'm nervous about Zach Wilson. Always thought it was a little weird that just the Jets went all in on him immediately over Fields, Lance. Like, you're just going to take this guy over those guys who are more physically gifted. He's immediately hurt. He was hurt last year. He's going to miss the first several games. They got to go with Flacco. They talk about Flacco a little too well. They talk about Flacco that makes me go red flag. Like, why do you give Flacco kind of this circle jerk? Is that a reflection of your quarterback? Do you love the quarterback? Here's what I know with Zach Wilson. And the Jets aren't winning this game. I mean, so look at the Jets' early schedule. What if they are not good this year? What if they win 4 or 5 games and Zach Wilson is not the guy? Now, he would still get next year. But what if all of a sudden Zach Wilson is a bust? All those guys are getting fired. Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas, every single person is getting fired. They need Zach Wilson to be good. And right now, based on injuries and just unknown, I would bet against it. Now, the Ravens, as of recording this during the day on Thursday, have not signed Lamar Jackson. And Lamar claimed that by the end of the week, I have to be signed. I don't think Lamar's handled this correctly. I would not be practicing, but listen, maybe he's a better guy than me. I think the Ravens are going to be fucking awesome. I think their defense is going to be ass kickers. I think their offense, if they can get this Lamar situation figured out, is going to be sweet. I got a birdie in that building that says this tight end that they drafted from, I think, Coastal Carolina is sweet. Obviously, if you fantasy football, everyone's heard about him. Mark Andrews is a stud. Their run game. I think Lamar Jackson has even gotten better this offseason from what I've heard. I like the Ravens a lot. I mean, I do. I picked them to win the division. I think they're going to be slightly better. You know, last year they were so injured. Healthy, even against the Bengals. I think they top to bottom have the better roster. Now, I would take Joe Burrow over Lamar Jackson. I like that type quarterback more. But I've come around on Lamar Jackson. Like, Lamar Jackson's a stud. And when he's healthy and if his mind's in it, and listen, he's been pretty focused. How many guys in his position, you can say it's right or wrong, would have stayed practicing, would have stayed dialed in as the contract situation not playing out like this? Most guys hold in. Most guys do not practice. They don't risk injury. Lamar's a high-level cat, man. I'm a big fan. I like him to destroy the Jets. Jacksonville at Washington. I don't know really there's that much to say about this. I mean, Carson Wentz, let's face it, is kind of playing for his career. A little bit like Russell Westbrook last year with the LA Lakers. Like, bro, what are we doing? Can you change it all? And the answer was no. Like Carson Wentz. Can you figure it out? Like, can someone just kind of vouch for you and be like, you know, I kind of like this Carson Wentz guy. Not a bad guy. Like, why does the last two teams can't get rid of Carson Wentz fast enough? Like, that's not an opinion. That's a fact. And this is not the easiest place to resurrect your career. And then on the flip side, I don't blame Trevor Lawrence at all for last year. Urban Meyer was the most embarrassing thing we've ever seen. He did not make it through the season. Doug Peterson is a Super Bowl winning coach. And he's just a genuine, nice human being. It's got to be one of the great transitions in the history of the league for a quarterback. Go from Urban Meyer, who was a fucking fish out of water. I've called him Fraud Meyer for years. Not because he couldn't coach. He can coach in college. But he coached in college because he could bully people, and he always coached at places, Florida and Ohio State, that pre-NIL would give huge bags of money to the best players and just naturally recruited good players. And he was excellent in college, kind of bullying other programs and out-recruiting them. The NFL is an intellectual league, not a recruiting league. And you could see Urban Meyer couldn't deal with players making more money than him or on his same economic level. And he's a fraud, you know. I just think he's a questionable human being to begin with. But he got run out of the league. He couldn't cut it in the big leagues. Like Nick Saban, you know, wasn't probably meant for the NFL, but he still lasted a couple seasons. I think Jacksonville, some people think they're going to be feisty. I still think they're going to be pretty bad, but I think they'll be dramatically improved from an eye test standpoint. You'll just watch them go, okay, I understand why Trevor Lawrence was a big-time recruit and then college prospect. The Browns against Carolina. I mean, this is pretty cool because Baker Mayfield, who gets traded to the team that's opening up against the Browns. I mean, think about that. And, of course, he won the job. Sam Darnold's technically hurt, but Baker Mayfield beat him out even before he was injured. So you know where I'm standing. I'm rooting for Carolina now to win the AFC South. Excuse me, the NFC South. But I'm telling you, when I watch a preseason game with Baker Mayfield, I'm like, God, he looks a little more natural in this jersey. It fits a little bit more than it did with the Browns. And let's face it, how do you take the Browns seriously right now? I know they have good players on their roster, but it's hard to just look at the Cleveland Browns and not think Deshaun Watson. And they're starting Jacoby Brissett, which from everything I've heard from people, great guy, super high character, bad player. He's just not a good player. And it's one thing to be a backup, and most backups ideally never have to play. I mean, is Jacoby starting the next, 11 games? Because if he is, the Browns are in trouble. And every Browns fan knows that, right? Now, if Carolina's going to win the division, you got to win this game. Cannot lose this game. The Giants at Tennessee, the Giants do nothing for me. Brian Daboll is not calling the plays. I still think that's one of the most head-scratching things I've seen this training camp and this leading up to week one. Not calling the plays? That's why you got hired. You became a head coach because you were the best offensive coordinator in the league for the Bills. Now, I know you'll still be influencing and shaping the offense, but not calling the plays? If I hired Emeril Lagasse for a big event with a bunch of potential clients, I wouldn't want him to just cook, go to the grocery store and then let someone else cook. I'd want him to make the meal. Like Brian Daboll, you were high. I said the same thing last year about Robert Saleh. These young guys that get head coaching jobs, like, I'm a CEO now. You're not hired to be the CEO. No one looks at you like you're Jeff Bezos. Just figure out how to call the offense or call the defense. The reason you became a head coach. I'm baffled by that. Is it because they think it's going to be pretty ugly and he can throw Mike Kafka to the Wolves? It's kind of what it feels like to me. In Tennessee, I believe they're going to take a step back, which is fine. Malik Willis will transition in the starter next year. Traylon Burks, it might take him a little bit longer. He'll be better next year. They're probably not a playoff team, but I've said over and over, I wouldn't bet against Mike Vrabel. He has proven to be one of the better coaches in the league. John Robinson has proven to be one of the better general managers in the league. They've been one of the most consistent organizations in the league. Everyone anoints Ballard and Frank Wright, and they consistently beat them. That's just a reality. So I would never just discount Tennessee, even though it does feel like the recipe is there for them. Obviously, they were the 1 seed last year. That's not going to happen. Probably, might be the best game of the day. Packers at Minnesota. And let's start with Minnesota. One thing they have going for them in this game, their weakness is corners. Their corners are just not good. And ultimately, it's why I'm not picking them to win this division. Because I think when you don't have good corner play, this is not 1984. We're not playing a bunch of teams that want to run it down my throat. I'm playing teams that want to throw it. Well, think about the Packers. They lost Devontae Adams, and the question mark is their passing game. But they do have Aaron Rodgers. If like Colin and a lot of people, think the Minnesota Vikings and Kevin O'Connell. And I'm not even trying to make fun of Kevin O'Connell. It's just the Minnesota Vikings were good last year on offense. Their problem was defense. Well, if they're going to win this division, they got to win this game. Like, you can't say it's a must-win. Well, yeah, you can't be losing to the Packers at home and think you're going to beat them, one, on the road, and two, just be better than them. Like, if you're going to beat the Packers, you literally have to be better than them. And you get them at home, the atmosphere is going to be elite. I even saw LaFleur saying how annoying the skull and the horn thing is. It's an elite NFL atmosphere. There is a small number, the Chiefs, Minnesota, maybe Lambeau a little bit, that's collegiate. Steelers, when they're humming. Like, you watch college football, their atmospheres are better than the NFL. The football in the NFL is better, but the college pageantry is what separates that sport, right? In terms of interest. It's why I'm not saying it's more interesting than the NFL. I'm just saying if college did not have how cool their atmospheres were, it wouldn't be even remotely as interesting. But when you have a great atmosphere and a great home field, you got to win on it. Like Wisconsin, LSU, whoever, you got to take advantage of your home field advantage. I mean, that's the whole point of a home field advantage. And to me, Minnesota, like, you got to win this game. And I am kind of fascinated to watch, like, Rodgers with the new receivers. Like, what does it look like? You know, what does it look like? I don't know. I would still lean Green Bay in this game, but listen, I'm not crazy enough because, like I said, Minnesota's main weakness is also technically the Packers' weakness. Now, we could find out early on, like, no, Aaron's fine. He'll be slinging it around. Why? I mean, he's one of the greatest players of all time. In the peak of his powers, he's a two-time reigning MVP. LaFleur's pretty good. LaFleur's definitely much more accomplished than Kevin O'Connell, who a couple years ago, no one would have known who he was unless you were a San Diego State fan. So that's a good game. This is also a good game. Kansas City at Arizona. Chiefs are my pick to win the AFC West. They'll be my pick, probably them and Baltimore, to be, right there for the AFC. Mahomes is my MVP pick. I like Kansas City to beat the shit out of Arizona. Now, you can call me a Cardinal hater. I probably am. But they, listen, their first-round wide receiver, well, he wasn't drafted this year, but the guy they gave up pick 22 for was arrested this year. Their running back coach, I haven't read him. Is he even back? He had a domestic dispute violence issue where he got subpoenaed or, served or arrested or whatever. I'm no legal analyst, but, he's basically being accused of hitting a woman in a grocery store. Like, that's, and he's not around. That happened, coach. And obviously the Kyler Murray contract situation. Like, I'm shorting the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I've never, for someone who does not believe in Kyler the player, I've never disputed the talent. I've never disputed his ability. I think his talent is, it's very Michael Vick-ish, but he's even more accurate. Now, Michael was bigger, but like Michael, he gets hurt a lot, and he kind of wears down because Michael wasn't the biggest guy. Michael's bigger than Kyler, but Michael was still small. And I think this Arizona, I saw J.J. Watt's already injured. I mean, I like J.J. Watt, but holy shit, he gets hurt a lot now. And I just think Kansas City is one on a mission. They are pissed off from last year. They're obviously a big favorite in this game, even though they're on the road. And I think they go in there and they hammer Arizona. Obviously, Hopkins is out for PEDs. I think Arizona's just got a lot going on. And like I said, Cliff, good guy. Never trusted him as a coach. I never have. And I don't start just because he had one decent year in the NFL. Vegas at Chargers. This is right up there, actually, with Green Bay and Minnesota. This is a game. This is a ball game. Two teams that have a ton of sweet players. Obviously, Derek Carr has resurrected his career against his college teammate, Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is now the best player on the team. He's the best player the Raiders have had over the last decade, besides Khalil Mack. You get Josh McDaniels, who's been turning down jobs, who literally left Chris Ballard at the altar against the Chargers, who I think, man for man, player for player, best roster in the NFL. But their coach last year was reckless, simply put. I mean, you can't even argue that. The analytical elites can push back all they want. He was reckless, and he cost them the playoffs. He cost them the playoffs with a top 5 quarterback. Can you imagine missing the playoffs with a top 5 quarterback? Their defense was horrendous. Well, their defense has improved. Now, it doesn't look like J.C. Jackson's going to play in this game, but Khalil Mack should help their run defense immensely. Having Derwin James healthy should help immensely. This to me is a coin flip game. Having been down there, I went to a Niner-Rams game. Niner fans packed the place. I would expect, and obviously the Rams have more fans than the Chargers, I would expect there to be a silver and black in this stadium. it was when they were playing at the Home Depot Center a couple years ago before they moved into SoFi. It was basically 90% Raider fans. Now, I don't know if it'll quite be that, but it'll definitely be on the pie chart, 65-35, 70-30, 80-20. I don't know. There are going to be a ton of Raider fans. That's the problem for the Chargers. Like, ultimately, I think their roster is good. Even if Brandon Staley just improves on last year, they have no home field advantage. None. And think of the 3 teams in their division. All 3 teams, big brands that travel. Like Bronco fans, if the Denver's good, and obviously if the Chiefs are good, like their fans will come. The Raider fans already live in LA. So you got this sweet team, which they do. They have no home field advantage. Like the Chiefs and Denver, huge home field advantage. The Raiders are good. They will have a home field advantage, even though that's closer to the Chargers, just given the market. But Raider fans are Northern California, LA. It's easy to get to Vegas. Southwest flight. Ask the owner, Mark Davis. Been taking Southwest for years. So I kind of want to lean Vegas, but if the Chargers are going to be some powerhouse this year, you got to win some home games. To me, Vegas can lose this game and still be okay. And to me, this is a pretty cool little 4-game. These 4 teams, Kansas City, Arizona, Vegas, and the Chargers. So Kansas City plays Arizona. Next week, they play the Chargers on Thursday Night Football. The Raiders play the Chargers, and next week they're at home against Arizona. Like, there is probably going to be a team, and I would bet being Arizona, that's going to come out of this stretch being 0-2. But I could be wrong. I mean, if the Chargers were to lose this game, then they got a short week at Kansas City. Like, as crazy as it sounds, the Chargers, you don't win this game, regardless of what happens in Kansas, what happens in the Kansas City-Arizona game. You then have 4 days to go to Arrowhead of their season opener. So this is a cool little 4-team little round robin to watch. And then Tampa, Dallas. I mean, the Brady thing, I don't know how they're not going to avoid it or how they're going to avoid it, and they'll probably try about off-the-field stuff. But it's the elephant in the room. I mean, him, Giselle, his situation, leaving training camp for 11 days. Like, come on. We were born at night, but not last night. Like, there's something's going on. Now, I'm not expecting everyone to know all the details. I don't even care. But, like, it's a thing when you're the greatest player of all time and you disappear for 11 days. Like, you can't downplay it. In fairness, he didn't really. He said, like, I'm 45, shit happens. It's true. In Dallas, like, the elephant in the room with them is just their coach. Like, he got to win. And, I don't even – if you said who would you bet on this game, I wouldn't feel good picking either. I would lean just – if Tom's playing, I'll pick Tampa. Because you know where I stand. I don't think Dallas is going to be as good this year. And I just think that pressure of Jerry being around, Jerry's old, just McCarthy, man, he's going to feel it, and he's going to feel it fast. Now, I am fascinated to watch Micah Parsons in this game. Like, is this guy just going to be, for 5 straight years, like one of the best players in the league? Because last year he was remarkable. He was an unstoppable force. And think about this. Tampa, they're missing a bunch of offensive linemen. Like, that's the other thing with Tom. Tom does get rid of the ball fast, but you do need to block for him a little bit. He can't move. I mean, even if he's in the best shape of his life at 45, he ain't running away from anybody. So it'll be interesting. Dallas, they should be able to get pressure with Dan Quinn and Micah. Can they block for Tom?
Thanks for watching 3 and Out. You can check out the podcast below in the description, and make sure you subscribe right now to the Volumes YouTube channel.